Hey, welcome everybody to our first community call for 2026. David, Dima, and myself are eager to recap the great 2025 that we had and give you a glimpse of all the wonderful activities and programs we have in store for the rest of this upcoming year. So first off, we're going to look back at the past year with a close focus on Q4 to give a shout out and showcase of all the accomplishments that our community and ecosystem helped us to achieve. And then we're going to take a brief look into the horizon for 2026, looking at refreshing once again on the core strategic pillars that guide our community, giving a deeper look at the forthcoming quarter, and then a brief glimpse into what's coming for the rest of the year. So I'll pass it over to David, who's going to kick us off by looking at a number of the events that we concluded the year in 2025. Luckily, throughout 2025, we were able to traverse great sections of the globe, and not just David and myself, but a broad cross-section of members of the community, including many of our interns who helped to spread the word about our initiative and help us achieve one of our programmatic areas of deepening the advocacy and outreach of how we build digital public goods to advance financial inclusion for the 3 billion underbanked. So on to you, David.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, no, it certainly was a busy Q4, as it always is every year with lots of events. And the first event we were able to attend in Q4 was the Finos Open Source in Finance Forum. As you may know, it normally meets in two locations, London and New York, although this year it's actually in Toronto, New York, and London. They've stretched to three. And it was absolutely great that you, one of our interns last summer, who worked on the credit bureau integration modules, etc., was actually able to go along, and she met our selfie challenge of getting a photo with Gabe. So absolutely great. She was able to participate for the 2 days there, get a lot of knowledge and make new connections in the community. Talking about interns, our next event is another annual event, which is the GSOC Mentor Summit. We normally have quite a hot contest between the mentors who wants to attend, and we had to use a draw mechanism to choose which one. In the end, this year was able to attend out those that wanted to, and it was great that we were able to have Yash go and attend for us. It's actually one of his first trips abroad, so that was another nice experience. And this year, it was actually held in Munich rather than in its normal location. And it's just great to see all those mentors come together, share good practice, all the rest of it. So if you haven't yet, it's worth having a look at the Mifos blog and our LinkedIn. We had a little write-up from Yash afterwards of what he personally took away from the experience. The next event after that, again related to our interns. So DPG Dialogues is organised by Samagra. Samagra is the same organisation that last year organised Code for GovTech in the previous year, which we were involved with. And it was absolutely great that we could have some of our interns go along. Again, we set them a bit of a selfie challenge, so you can see if you can recognise some of the people they met by there. But it's a really great event in India each year that you can actually get to know other people that have been involved mentoring, people that have been involved in the projects, and really get ideas and bounce off each other. One of the great things about C4GT and the work Samagra does is it really does try to encourage that cross-pollination of ideas and cross-pollination of mentoring with the two levels of mentors that they have. So it's a really great event. And then the last event I'll introduce was the Global DPI Summit in Cape Town, a great event and one unfortunately I couldn't make, but Godfrey was able to attend for us, which was absolutely great. So another great networking opportunity. Almost every one of the DPGs in the DPI ecosystem we participate in was there. Lots of chance to interact with them, find out more information, and also lots of opportunities as well, just to hear what's going on in DPI. It's Great to think it's only the second event I've actually held. Cairo was only a year before. It seems like a lot longer, which was the first one. But it was a real great event. We also had the opportunity to speak as well. So Godfrey participated in a panel, as you'll see on the next slide, which was focused on DPI and sustainability. So it was great to have Godfrey participate in that panel as well. I'll hand back to Ed, who's going to talk a bit more about the ILF Summit.
Oh, sorry, we had one more slide here, just talking about.
Yeah, that was the panel that I introduced. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, David. And yeah, Q4 is always a busy time of year, so I had the pleasure of attending for the second time the Interledger Summit, which this year was held in Mexico City. And Victor Romero from Fintechando also attended, and a number of members of his team as well. So one highlight from the summit in Mexico City was the demo that Victor was able to give, showcasing the work that he and his team built around a connector to connect Mifos X to the PCH switch. The demo went very smoothly, including a live demonstration in which he was able to show how money was transferred from one Mifos X instance to another via the PCH switch, and it all happened live and went off smoothly. And you can also see Peter Kokoma from Kanzu Finance, who attended that demo too. And then I had the pleasure of joining a number of esteemed colleagues on a panel called Human Rights by Design, looking at financial infrastructure that's inclusive for everyone. And so the focus that I brought to this panel was more around my role around the Safeguards Initiative, and how by designing, with intent to be inclusive and to build in trust and openness and transparency, we can help leverage digital public goods to build out this infrastructure that promotes trust and helps to ensure human rights are there within the software. I really appreciated this opportunity to be on that panel. It was once again great to see how many different members of the Mifos ecosystem came all the way to Mexico City to represent the various Interledger projects that they were working on. So once again, we were there in tandem with the team at Fintechando, but it was great to see Kareem from Paces Labs and 3 members of the Kanzu team. And we're looking forward throughout the forthcoming year to deepen the collaboration we have between what we're doing with Interledger, along with what our fellow community members are as well. And then at the Interledger Summit, one of the key goals was to deepen the relationship we have with Interledger, as well as the other members of their community and ecosystem. So we're looking forward in 2026 to deepening the work that we kicked off back in 2024. So we were able to meet extensively with various members of the Interledger team. And we're also looking forward to the opportunity to work together with other DPGs and other members of the Interledger ecosystem as we build out our integrations between our stack and theirs, being able to ensure that there's strong cross-pollination between our 2 communities who have very mutually reinforcing missions and a tech stack that highly complements each other. So stay tuned for hopefully some continued updates as we deepen the collaboration there throughout the forthcoming year. And one area where we're hoping that collaboration will really bear fruit is directly in Mexico City. So being there at the summit was a key way to drive forward some of the potential pilots and innovation that can be cultivated by bringing together our 2 technology stacks. So we met, with a team at MOOCs and are signed an MOU and are kicking off a pilot there of Mifos X to help manage their core banking operations. And then I had the chance to finally meet the full team or more members of the team at Fina Bien, and Victor is helping us to kick off a potential pilot where we would be building off of the Mifos X foundation they have there, and hopefully beginning to test out some of the Interledger components there as well. And then before we go on to the next event, just wanted to, showcase how well the Interledger team did in bringing forth the vibrant culture of Mexico at the event. So you can see how much like that was focused on here at the event with the wonderful artwork, the music, dancing, and really showing how immersive the summits can be, really bringing in the local players of the ecosystem and showing how the Interledger technology and community can be impactful in that regards. And then you couldn't be at an Interledger Summit without talking about the after party. So we had a wonderful time there looking at the lucha libre culture, having some dance, and Victor really showed off his salsa skills. So this was one of the lasting memories from the summit itself. And then lastly, Victor helped me to experience many of the delicious tacos throughout Mexico. So thanks, Victor, for taking me on a nice food tour throughout Mexico City. And then, David, I'll pass it back to you to talk about your recent trip to the Chatham House. So,
Yeah, thanks, Ed. I'm still feeling hungry from seeing all the tacos you've been eating. I'll definitely have to join for those next time. I had the privilege to go to Chatham House. For those that don't know, Chatham House is where a lot of international negotiations have occurred in history over time. The place itself, the building itself, used to be a prime minister's residence before Number 10 Downing Street. So it was a great place to actually get to go and have a look around. And I was there to participate in a discussion alongside some other DPGs and DPI experts around a new report that Chatham House published, and there's a link down below, and you can go and download the report if you want, around the case for expanding digital public infrastructure and things that governments and countries need to consider around that. And whilst I was there, I got to actually see the famous Chatham House rule. And if you don't know why it's rule, not rules, you can look at my LinkedIn. You'll find I gave a long explanation in November about why. It's a bit of an education I got from there. But that's the famous rule written on the wall in there for people to understand. Ed, I think it's back to you for the next one.
okay. Yeah. And then David and I had the good opportunity to come together to conclude the year. And we were able to attend our first annual member meeting in Brasilia. And this really was a wonderful opportunity to meet face to face once again with all the leadership at the Digital Public Goods Alliance, but also a very powerful gathering amongst various digital public goods, as well as representatives from various countries and members of the system integrator ecosystem. So we'll look back on a few highlights from that event. But please, check out either our LinkedIn and I think our blog, as we did an extensive recap there, looking at some of the next steps and key action items from the member meeting. So first off, it was once again a wonderful time to come together and deepen the connections we have across not just the Digital Public Goods Alliance, but other digital public goods, other efforts like the Safeguards Framework. So we're able to meet with these individuals and discuss, the plans and areas of mutual collaboration that we have. And I think a key takeaway really was, the commonality and the synergy and the recognition we all see of the key role that digital public goods play and the key roles that the local ecosystem plays as well, and how these can be brought together to drive towards sustainability. So there are a number of key areas and topics in which we discuss this, and there are a number of powerful ways in which the digital public goods, as well as the countries and that broader integrator ecosystem, as well as the funders, are going to come together to help drive that sustainability. But here you can see a number of the pictures just of the different fellow DPGs, as well as other countries that we're able to interact with and deepen these messages for. And David, do you want to talk a little bit about the sustainability here? As I know you've been closely involved both at the event here, but also a number of the other conversations directly with fellow DPGs.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about the Digital Public Goods Alliance meeting, as you say, is we can get together with other DPGs. And what was great here was it was a really open opportunity to discuss, the common problems that actually occur for all DPGs, how to become sustainable, how do you reduce your reliance necessarily on donor funding, what activities you can undertake. And really, the open discussion we're able to have with the other DPGs was great. We started looking at, how do they onboard partners? What sort of approaches do they have for training? Sort of what even down to, what is their business case? What is their revenue stream? So really open dialogue with these other DPGs, hoping that, by this cross-pollination of ideas and sharing best knowledge, actually we can all become sustainable. And I think one of the key things that we got out of it as well was, the DPGs are stronger together, which is why we're part of the DPGs for DPI initiative. Working together actually makes us really stronger. We're more applicable to use cases, etc. And we will certainly be extending those conversations a bit more when we're out later this month or early next month in Morocco with some of the fellow DPGs, an event that we'll introduce later. So yeah, really good time. The other thing we're able to do there was actually have a stand, something Mifos doesn't do that often, but we had a stand and we actually put some effort into it beforehand, had some handouts, made sure our mobile apps were all working and we could demonstrate the mobile apps. And it was just great to have that chance to interact and share what we actually do with the other members there, including the countries that participated to find out more. So a really great event, and thanks to DPGA and Balaji, etc., for doing that.
Yeah, and a special thank you to Rajan and Victor for helping us get the mobile apps working for the demo, so we could demonstrate more of those flows of money in a G2P-based use case.
Yeah, it's great to be able to send between the two mobiles, which were two different accounts, through a whole ecosystem effectively. So great work by those people.
Yeah, and there was a passport to go around each booth, and David, was wielding his stamp to give people their passport stamp, so he had a good time doing that. So
well, we had the selfie tax, didn't we, Ed? So they weren't allowed to get a stamp from our stands unless they had a selfie with Ed. So they're definitely up to Ed's selfie count for the year.
And that helped them get a laptop camera cover as well. So that was part of the benefit.
Absolutely. Just looking a bit more at DPI, or digital public infrastructure, as we keep going into it. One of the great things we've been able to do was work with people such as Max Kintosh, John Lloyd, and people like that at the Digital Public Goods Alliance on what is sustaining digital public goods, and looking at some examples about different ways investment can actually occur, and what the real benefit out of that investment actually is. Because the investment people put into digital public infrastructure can actually reap benefits over and over again in different implementations. And it was great that Mifos was able to have an example of its Mifos X DPG and the investment there that's been able to be reused and in many different cases afterwards to actually do that development. So it's really great, and I definitely recommend reading that publication. We'll make sure when we send out links and things afterwards, it's got a link to the report so you can read that as well. As I said, being a DPG, we actually believe is really important to us. It's recognition that the work we continue to do, just not a single point in time, is aligned to that of DPG. It covers not just the actual code, it covers the governance we undertake as an organisation, and we're doing things the right way. Each year, roughly, because it takes a little while to go through the process, we are recertified, and Mifos X has been recertified, and Payment Hub EE is still going through that recertification process at the moment, but hopefully it will be imminently recertified again. And it's absolutely great that both our DPGs are both in the exclusive DPGs for DPI category, which is a restricted catalogue on the DPGA website about DPGs that are really impacting DPI. So it's great to be part of that as well. And then we've continued our work with GovStack, which obviously also relates to DPI as well. So I've remained heavily involved in the payments working group. I'm absolutely delighted that we've got the payments building block specification version 3.0 out there. It's got some great input on multi-currency in country use that people like Oscar, who's part of the working group, has been heavily involved in doing. We've inputted some more use case and information about how the APIs that were previously just government to person and person to government can be used for government to business and business to government as well. So that's really important that that's just been published and out there. We're also continuing to work with a number of parts of GovStack to look at how the Mifos solution can be better demonstrated within the GovStack ecosystem, and hopefully we'll have some announcements about some exciting little things we're working on there in the coming few months. I think I will now hand across, because one of the things that is important about all of this is getting it absolutely safe and making sure we have the right safeguards in place. And Ed has been spending a lot of time looking at safeguards.
Okay, thank you, David. So this past year, I had the pleasure of serving as one of the co-chairs for the DPI Safeguards Framework working group, and our working group focused on building out some of the assessment tools to help the various stakeholders that are looking to implement the safeguards to actually be able to translate some of these more abstract principles into measurable outcomes, and then be able to navigate the sort of overwhelming landscape of various indicators and assessment tools out there to actually measure the progress of how they're achieving and implementing the safeguards to ensure there are trust, there is transparency, and they're minimizing the risk as DPI gets implemented at a country level. So the two major outputs from our cohort of the working group was first off an interactive assessment tool that deeply aligns with the safeguard interactive framework itself, as well as an indicator library, which helped to harmonize and bring together the various sources of data and various sorts of indicators and measurement tools that are being promoted across the sector. And so really, the end goal was to then have these set of indicators which would help to both measure supply side, the existence of a tool or existence of a policy or process, as well as demand side indicators to look actually at the quality and impact of the DPI implementation across the various principles. And then recognizing that each stakeholder is at a various stage in their DPI implementation journey and being able to map the constraints against that. And so if you want to interact with the tool, you can just go to the DPI Safeguards Framework site, and then you can visit the assessment tool, and there's a wizard to guide you through it. And you can look at targeted outcomes, look at risks you want to minimize, and then display the various indicators that might be relevant to you. And then you can also access the indicator library in full. And we'll talk more about how we're looking to integrate and align more with the safeguards as part of our day-to-day software development, as well as DPI adoption activities later on. But let's conclude our updates around 2025 by giving a brief look at the product and some of the key milestones we achieved. And then we'll focus on 2026 and the road ahead of us. So first off, around Mifos X, we were able to implement a number of enhancements from the Pepper Soup project into the loan module, which we'll touch on the subsequent slide. And to our interns through Summer of Code, Mifos Summer of Code, as well as Code for GovTech, we're able to build out and extend some existing modules and some new modules around loan decisioning, workflow engines that we're looking to more tightly integrate into Mifos X. But I'll pass it on to you, David, to talk more about Gazelle and some of the milestones from 2025.
Yeah, no, it's great in 2025 that what we actually achieved with Gazelle is a huge amount. Actually, so much it's taking us quite a long time to get the release out the door. But yes, first of all, it's been largely powered by the work of Tom, as people are aware that there's a lot of work on Mifos Gazelle for us, but also by the interns we had working over the summer, and that's where we see some exciting new developments come in. So they worked on OpenCRVS deployment, so we will be able to, in the next release, deploy OpenCRVS alongside the existing components in there. So thanks for Rishav working on that. We then introduced demo capabilities as well. So those that have seen the Gazelle deep dives before will realise it was a bit command line. But now we actually have some demo capabilities as well, where you can actually build a demo in what we call the demo creator package. And then we have a whole runtime environment that enables you to follow instructions on the left-hand side of the screen, and on the right-hand screen navigate between the various UIs and interfaces of the different DPGs being integrated. And it's some really great work that was undertaken there by our interns. And we've also spent a lot of time looking at the dependency issues we have in Mifos Gazelle, not least on Payment Hub EE, which hasn't had a release recently. And we've done a lot of fixes for what might seem to be deployment issues due to things such as the Bitnami changes, the Java deployment kit having been moved, and bits like that. So there's a lot of those sort of benefits that are also being packaged into release. And the last bit, which is always my fun little bit, is the Raspberry Pi deployment. It was great to have people working on Raspberry Pis, and we can actually now run the whole ecosystem on the Raspberry Pi, which I have on my desk, but it's a bit wide in for me to drag quickly across here today. But yeah, and all this work, although we talk about it being Mifos Gazelle, it's actually consuming our other DPGs. And actually, what all the stuff we've talked about in terms of reliability and the dependency updates for Payment Hub EE will actually be contributed back upstream effectively from Mifos Gazelle to Payment Hub EE. So although Payment Hub EE doesn't focus on the slide, actually a lot of work's been done by the Gazelle team, which will actually really benefit the Payment Hub EE release we have planned. So I think next it's probably time to look a bit more in detail at those enhancements you talk about, Ed, on Pepper Soup. Can you take us through them?
Thanks, David. No, and it's great. I know that Mifos Gazelle really is your baby, and it's nice to see how it continues to grow. And I know it's going to reach some of its formative years in 2026 in the coming months. So yeah, so I just wanted to give a quick look at a number of the enhancements that have been coming from the collective work of various members of the community for the Pepper Soup project, which we introduced, I think, last year. But we continue to work with this large global fintech customer to implement, more support for interest-bearing installment loans on top of the progressive loan module. So out of that, there's been some really valuable enhancements around being able to have better control of interest. So being able to backdate and modify the interest rate, being able to pause and resume interest being calculated, being able to terminate and make all payments due on a loan if a customer is going to be in arrears. And then we're also able to continue to extend some of the key, features around rescheduling, being able to re-age or re-amortize a loan when a customer is facing hardship, and making sure those are supported within the interest-bearing installment loans on top of the progressive loan module. And then, we recognize that today's not the proper venue to demonstrate all those changes. So we want you to scan that QR code on the bottom corner of the screen. And we're going to be doing a webinar in February, looking at the various enhancements that have come through so the community can better take advantage of the valuable functionality that's going back into the back end, as we recognize that all that functionality is being delivered pretty rapidly, but sometimes it's hard for the community to come up to speed on all the enhancements that are there and can be utilized to deepen the lending operations that you have. So make sure to try to attend that webinar that Bharat from our team will be leading. And then on the mobile side, Rajan has really been quite active helping to mobilize the strong contingent of interns we had this past year, as well as a vibrant group of contributors that have been contributing across all of our mobile applications. So we were able in 2025 to fully complete the migration of all our applications, including the Field Officer app, the mobile banking app, as well as the mobile wallet app, to Kotlin multi-platform to enable this cross-platform development. And we now have production-ready, applications that have been shipped in both the Google Play and Apple Play stores for all of our 3 core mobile apps. And then Rajan has also put great investment into making sure the approach with using the Kotlin multi-platform framework can be replicable, enabling one-click deployment of the applications and automation of the pipelines, which has really improved our overall developer experience. But we've got a lot in plan for our mobile apps that we'll be touching on as we look at 2026. But I'll pass it on to you, David, to close out on our product updates.
Yeah, and AI is an important one to us as well. I mean, it's been great the work the AI working group has done this year. It's a really vibrant working group. It chats even more on Slack between meetings than it does in the meetings, which is unusual for working groups for those that manage and do them. But yeah, a really great pace of the work they're doing in there, and starting to get to some really tricky questions about, how much can we use AI in coding? How does it interface into our products, and how do we ensure it's safe when it's interfacing into our products? And where can we use it even for community development? And we have a community AI repo with a number of sort of experimental community tools about how it can interact with Slack, how it can start to produce documentation and things like that. That's really well worth checking out. So thank you to all of those, too many to name, that are participating in the IO working group. And we'll talk a bit more later about some of the events we've got coming up around AI. But I guess, let's look at some numbers for 25. So first of all, download stats. So as you can see, there's very few countries apart from Greenland that haven't downloaded Mifos X. this year. So yeah, 162 countries, quite impressive, and 10,169 downloads. Very impressive stats for that. LinkedIn, as you know, we use that as our sort of one of our primary external communication mechanisms, as well as informing parts of our community as well. And we've continued to grow on LinkedIn. We've got more followers this year. We've almost added 20% more followers this year, which is absolutely great. It's means we're reaching out to more people. And then more importantly than who you reach out to is, do they like it? And the number of reactions, the number of reposts is a validation to us that the work the community is doing that we're able to talk about is actually resonating with people outside. So great work, everybody. And then, of course, mustn't forget all the interns. We had 22 interns, which I think was our highest number of interns ever had, across 3 different programs we ran this year: Google Summer of Code, Code for GovTech, and Mifos Summer of Code as well. So an absolutely great year. Ran me ragged over the summer trying to coordinate 22 people, but we're looking forward to another impactful year next year to do similar. And I guess that's a really good segue. We looked a lot back at last year, Ed. What's happening this year?
Thanks. And just one last point on the interns. I know you've eagerly been waiting. Your t-shirts and flags, those are ready to be delivered in India. So we've got Nyan who's going to be delivering them. He's making a nice handwritten note that we're trying to add a little bit more swag. So stay tuned for your mailboxes. They should be coming in the coming weeks. So yeah, in terms of 2026, like the format we're going to use to go through this is to give you a brief, refresh and recap on the overall strategic pillars that Mifos focuses on. So there's key programmatic areas and activities that we, as a 501c3 nonprofit, guide. And then we're just going to touch on lightly, what those general activities are. And then we're going to do a bit of a double click and a deeper dive into the objective that we have for 2026, and then some of the broader goals for the year, but looking more closely at the key activities for the first quarter, and then a very high level look at what's to come in 2026. And then as we go through the various community calls throughout the year, we'll start to double click on the forthcoming quarter there. So first off, as a 501c3 nonprofit, we have a number of key programmatic areas that we focus on to really help us achieve our mission of advancing the financial health of the 3 billion underbanked. So first off, we want to guide a collaborative community and ecosystem. We want to act as a thought leader in helping to promote, the adoption of open source digital public goods for financial inclusion. We need to both steward the product management as well as software development processes for our stack of DPGs. And then lastly, we need to provide that infrastructure and collaboration for both the community and the ecosystem that underlie that product development. So the first major pillar, and the one that we focused on in our 2025 update, centers around education and advocacy. And essentially, we want to get out there and promote the Mifos brand and promote our mission and help to advocate to other players across the sector, both public and private sector, around how you can deploy our digital public goods, how we can advance inclusive financial health, and how we can also document the impact of that. So a lot of this centers around attending events, hosting our own events, providing outreach to the community, developing case studies, showcasing those key members, and then also helping to provide, those training and other materials to onboard interns, onboard volunteers, and other contributors to help us achieve this objective. And so broadly, I touched already on a number of the key activities, but we want to continue to do a lot of that marketing and communications to both strengthen the awareness and identity of the Mifos brand, but also conduct active outreach to key players across the public and private sector. And this also means that we have to play a very collaborative role in working together with not just fellow digital public goods, but also other industry players. So being a part of these coalitions and cross-sectoral initiatives that we've mentioned, and we'll touch upon further. And then lastly, a key area that we're really going to focus on in 2026 is better telling that story, both by recognizing those individuals across our community, having case studies of how our software has been deployed, and beginning to measure the real world impact that that's having across the globe. So I'm going to touch upon some of the events that we're going to be attending in this future quarter. And then David's going to touch upon a number of the areas where we're going to be improving how we're doing some of our training and other activities in the forthcoming year. So if you haven't gone to this URL, David's done a good job of updating all the events that we've been at this past year and the events that are on the horizon. And then in terms of where we're going to be coming up, like I'll, touch upon a few of them, and then David will do a bit deeper dive on some of them as well. But we've got a busy Q1 in store for us, where David and I will both be able to go to Morocco for Mosif Connect, and then a number of our interns and former contributors from India are going to be representing the community at a couple of events there. And then David is also going to be at FOSDEM for that brilliant carnival atmosphere for the second time coming up at the end of this month. So David, was there anything you wanted to touch upon about your plans at FOSDEM at the moment?
So Fosdem will be on the DPGA stand. I think we've got a 3 to 5 o'clock slot, both on the Saturday and Sunday. So if you don't manage to grab me in the madness that is Fosdem, and unless you've been there, you don't quite know what Fosdem is like, trust me. And if you don't grab me around the event, come and grab me on the stand between 3 and 5 o'clock on either the Saturday or the Sunday. But yeah, just be great to see if you're going to be there. And I can see there's a few people online on the call who are definitely going to be there, and I'll get to meet for the first time, which is absolutely great. And then, as you say, Ed, Mosif Connect is going to be great for us. The Mosif Connect event in February, not April. It said on the other slide for the people. Hope Ed's booked his tickets for the right date. We will have a stand there in the DPG zone, so that'll be absolutely great to continue on some of the discussions we actually had at the DPGA members meeting, but actually we engaged with a whole new set of countries that will be present at there as well. So absolutely great for us that. We've got a schedule of workshops as well, which we'll be participating in. And I think we've got quite a few ideas for the unconference on the final day that we're hoping to get promoted and talk about, both, of course, the work we're doing here and the work we're doing in GovStack, and lots of ideas. So I think that'll be a great vibe. But it's really great. We've also got our interns attending things. So Akshat will be attending the Bharat FinTech Summit, and Keshav and Daru, who are both highly engaged in our AI work, will be at the PyTorch India Day. I had to look at what PyTorch as well, but it's really relevant to AI when I looked it up. So you can tell I'm not a coder, I'm just a program manager. But yeah, that's really great. So moving on, as we said, we've got sort of a few updates to give you on other areas as well. And one of them is about volunteer onboarding. So you remember last year, we were trying to run monthly onboarding calls because that had been really successful the year before. We found that didn't necessarily work as well, and we took some time out to get some key findings, and it was really great. We have Dima, who I'll introduce in a minute, come on board and do some work thinking about this as well. And some of those findings were that we need to probably enable more structured training for people to get into the complexity that is all the projects we support and manage now. The ability for people to onboard at their own pace. Saying it's once a month and when we are is not necessarily meeting the needs of volunteers who are trying to squeeze it in alongside things. But big things that came out of it as well was just more recognition for volunteers and how we can be consistent about our approach on onboarding people and things like contributor agreements. So this year coming up, we will have a new volunteer portal we will be launching, which will have some tailored navigation through modules, and we'll explain more about that in the future. We're now doing call outs to new volunteers when they join, and Dima's doing that for us. You'll have seen on our Slack channels, we're refreshed the contributor agreement, made it up to date, and making sure that's tied to contributors in GitHub. And we're going to put much more focus into things like contributors of the month and contributor badges, etc. But the guy who's been working on all this for us is Dima. So, Dima, hopefully you can come off mute and put your camera on. It's great to have Dima on board. Dima's been with us for a couple of months now, having joined us from his studies, the busy studies at the University of Washington Business School. And I'm really glad that he's able to take a few minutes out of his midterm exams and introduce himself. So, Dima, tell us a bit about yourself and what you found in the first few months working with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David, for the introduction. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm sure I'm a new face to many of you guys. So I'm glad to introduce myself. Like I said, like David said, my name's Dima. I'm from Seattle, Washington, which is in the United States. I'm in my second year at university studying finance, and I just recently kind of joined this Mifos team as their business intern, and it's been really fun. Yeah, for some of you guys that David kind of already explained, what I've been doing with Mifos has so far has been like communicating with you guys in the community on Slack, talking to you guys, reaching out, trying to help you guys. And I've been also working on this volunteer system and trying to develop that David's talked about. As well as like something new that we're trying to continue here is like the Star Contributor of the Month, which you guys should check out as David also posts on the LinkedIn. So I have to plug the LinkedIn and it's also on the website. So it would be really cool. But yeah, that's just a little about me. I encourage you guys to reach out to me on Slack, on LinkedIn. I would always be happy to chat, talk with people, meet new people, and just kind of talk about Mifos and any questions that you guys might have for me. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. But it's nice to meet everyone, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you,
Dima. No,
Dima.
great to have you on board.
And Dima's the next in line of a long list of previous interns we've had from the University of Washington. So he comes from a good pedigree and tenure there. And thank you to Adrian for helping introduce Dima to us. Dima's been a wonderful asset of the community and is going to be a big part of the success we're going to have throughout the upcoming years.
So, working groups, again, you've probably heard me shout about it on LinkedIn. You're probably getting a theme about me mentioning our LinkedIn and you should keep up to date on it. But our working groups have relaunched for 2026. We're keeping the 3 working groups we had: documentation working group, the AI4 working group, and the architecture working group. We're constructing things slightly different this year. We're going to go to monthly meetings and obviously the Slack channels to continue the conversation in between. You'll see all the dates there below, and I think in a bit we'll be saying what the AI working group will be getting up to. But the first meeting coming up, I think it's tomorrow, off the top of my head, will be actually AI and architecture actually working together on a problem. So definitely try and join those meetings. And we're trying to make them a bit fun and very high engagement working sessions. As I said, working group meetings will be monthly, but we've got a whole plan of webinars that we actually want to do this year. We're going to have some really product-focused sessions we're going to try and introduce. They will be focused on things such as road mapping for each of our products, new feature updates, launch announcements. So we'll get the list of those up on the community calendar. We're also going to have some specific developer focused meetings on things that are really important to the developers in our community, something we haven't done for the last year. So we're going to get into those. And then we're going to keep up the quarterly community calls and updates that we're doing to update you all. So a busy calendar of webinars coming up this year. Ed, do you want to take us through a bit of the thought leadership?
Sure. Yeah, and thanks, David, for looking at the advocacy and outreach and event activities we're up to. I'm going to talk a little bit about thought leadership and then some of the outreach tasks that Dima is going to be helping us head up. So right now, I just wanted to let you know that we have pending applications to both the Open Agentic AI Foundation as well as the AgStack initiative within the Linux Foundation. So hopefully we'll soon be able to share with you that those applications have been approved, but we're looking to deepen the collaboration we have and the work that's happening around the MCP server that Victor built as part of our efforts in the Agentic AI Foundation. And then within the AgStack initiative, we're looking to help to promote how our core banking stack can help to digitize key parts of that agricultural value chain. And then throughout 2026, we're also hoping to, once again, deepen the role we play within the Finos FinTech Open Source Foundation. And then I'll let David speak a little bit more about some of the collaboration we have going on with the Open Wallet Foundation. That's also part of the Linux.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we collaborate with the Open Wallet Foundation and want to do it a bit deeper. So, last year, for those that remember, we went to Geneva and participated in the Global Digital Collaboration event, which will be going to Geneva again later this year. And we participated there as part of the Open Wallet Foundation. But we're looking to do a lot more interaction and engagement with them and see how we can actually draw some of the work they've done more closely into our wallet applications and our mobile apps and things like that. that. So yeah, very much this year we want to make sure we deepen that collaboration with the Open Wallet Foundation. And for those that didn't realise, the person that was with me at Chatham House outside the door is Daniel from the Open Wallet Foundation.
Thanks. And so I think all of you should be familiar with our shared vision of 3 billion Maries. That's still continued to be a guiding, true north for our community and ecosystem throughout all the years. And we want to return to something we used to do in the past to help make that, vision be more close to heart at our day-to-day activities. So we're looking and seeking for any of the financial institutions or fintechs that are using their software. If you have an individual borrower or client that you would like to share her inspirational story for, we'd like to, document that as part of our outreach efforts, and then also have that Marie, be the code name for an upcoming Mifos X release. So definitely reach out to David, Dima, or myself if you have an inspirational borrower that's really been impacted by access to financial services that we could highlight as one of these Maries that we codename for our release. So I think in the past you saw how we had like the Shumim A release, and that then became whatever Mifos X release that was. So please reach out to us if you have a powerful story you'd like to tell. And then thanks to Dima for helping us get our 2024 annual report right out the door before 2024 was concluding, but it was 10 years in the making. But we're going to get our 2025 annual report hopefully out by Q1 of this year. So that's in the works right now, and we'll be reaching out to some members of the community to gather testimonials and information. But please stay tuned, as we are eager to make sure we do on a regular basis this powerful storytelling to augment the other year-end reporting we do for the donors and the government as well. But the annual report is a nice way to bring together and showcase and shine a light on all the key players across the community that's helping us achieve our vision. So stay tuned for some outreach from David, Dima, and myself as we bring those stories together. And then this is like something that I know is long overdue, and I've been the bottleneck for it, but we luckily have, I think, a number of our previous interns, as well as Dima, that we're going to bring together to help us finally update the various web presences we have. So we want to continue to maintain mifos.org as that one-stop, portal for all of our stakeholders, but really have it help signpost people to other places in the community. We'll be developing further our product microsite to help shine the light on the different DPGs and products that we maintain, as well as some of the key customers and implementations and case studies showing the impact of using those products. And then we also need to finally roll out our DPI microsite to help to speak to how Mifos is enabling last mile delivery of financial inclusion to those at the base of the pyramid. And then we're also looking to reinvigorate our 2030 vision campaign and having a microsite in place around that. But if you have any feedback on what you'd like to see from our websites, please share that with us. But we've got a small team that's going to be helping to finally update our websites. So looking forward to the updates in the coming months. We'll be able to share about our web presence. And then, as we touched upon a little bit earlier, we want to continue to be able to better tell those powerful stories across all the members of our community. So through the help of Dima, we're going to be relaunching our community spotlight blog series, and we'll do our first shout out that we've already relaunched around our star contributors. But we want to utilize this blog post series to highlight the key users, the key solutions, the key partners, and those impacted Maries across our community through regular posts to our blog. So if you're interested in potentially, nominating a star contributor, David's going to talk about the process around that. But we're looking forward to really putting the spotlight across the broader community and telling those impactful stories of how each one of you is helping us achieve our vision and mission.
No.
Yeah, and I would like to call out our first star contributor of the year, and we're going to promise that we're going to do this monthly throughout the year. And our first contributor we'd like to call out this month is Shubham. Shubham has only recently joined the community, but the pace and number of his commits, I challenge anybody to keep up with. It's been great the work he's doing, and he's actually looked really cross-product as well about, well, if I've done this enhancement this way, how can I do it for other projects, other repos, to move it forward. So it's great to have you as part of the community, Shubham, and thank you for everything you're doing so far. If you want to read a bit more about Shubham, find out a bit more about him, the link at the top tells you a bit more in our blog post. But most importantly, as much as we're committed to calling out each month the star contributors, we need your help. So if you can QR scan the code at the bottom, and we'll send it out afterwards as well. We've got a new nomination form, so people in the community can actually call out people that are contributing, and that can be any sort of contribution. It doesn't have to be how many lines of code you've done or how many commits you pushed. It can be any contribution type across our community. I'm going to quickly now rattle through a load of upcoming events. As I said, tomorrow we've got the AI working group and the architecture working group joining together to really look at AI and what does that mean for the future of Mifos. There's been a bit of discussion on our Slack channel already, and look forward to having that more and decide what our findings are out of that and how we're going to progress it as Mifos as a result. We have a whole long list of webinars. This doesn't even include all the working group sessions. We will have all of these updated on our community calendar, so don't worry scribbling them down now. But we have product focuses, we've got special ones on volunteering and interns, we've got developer focused ones, we've got ones about partnering, etc. So please do watch out for those. And of course, do join our next community call, which will be coming up on the 28th of April. We'll send out the registration link for that shortly, but please do make sure you sign up for that as well. As I said, all of these events, where can they be found? They can be found in our community events calendar, and we're also trying to cross-pollinate them a bit towards our events calendar on the website as well, so people can easily track them from either sort. I think I hand over to you now, Ed, don't I?
Yeah. So thanks, David. And then beyond just the first quarter, we've got a number of events that we traditionally attend that are on the horizon for us. So you can take a quick look at those, but we're going to be at some of these key events across the DPI and FinTech and open source space once again. So if you're planning to be at any of these, let us know, as we'd love to meet up. And then as David noted, we're going to start implementing some of more of those e-learning tools to help onboard volunteers. We're looking to extend that across all of the key topics and areas for the community. And then we also want to, deepen the in-person collaboration that we can have occur throughout the community. So we're not sure what this is going to look like for the forthcoming year, but it might take the shape of potentially, hackathons or hosting some in-person or virtual events. But we recognize that as the community continues to grow, we want to, continue to deepen and cultivate the in-person relationships that can bear a lot of fruit. And then apart from our community outlet blog series and the annual report and the showcasing of Marines, we want to continue to tell that story in better manners by working on case studies, working on having these end-to-end use cases we can demonstrate for DPI, and also bringing back our 2030 vision campaign. And we potentially, with some other players across the sector, have some research-oriented activities we're looking at, especially as it relates to upstream contribution to DPI, as well as sustainability amongst DPGs. So I just want to put a reminder there that I put in the chat. If you have any questions, please put those in the questions, and we're trying to reserve about 10 minutes at the end to get to any questions that we have. But I'm going to take a quick look at the community and ecosystem and what our key objective is there. And then we're going to look at some of the goals we have there. And David has some important updates for some of the key evolutions we're making to both our partner program as well as volunteer onboarding in the coming months. But first and foremost, Mifos, we really want to act as that connective tissue across the broader community and ecosystem and help to build a sustainable network of local partners who are building downstream solutions, but also contributing back upstream to the platform and helping us collectively sustain the software and grow our community and achieve our mission worldwide. So this, manifests itself in a number of different activities, which we've already touched on, I'm not going to spend too much on these slides, as we'll send along the slide deck, and you can reference these later on. And then just around our ecosystem, our partners are that key channel to market that we work with, and they're also the voice of the customer back into our roadmaps, and they're also that lead source of upstream contribution. And without further ado, let me then pass it on to David, who's going to talk about some key streamlining and updates we're making to our partner program to better align it with the sustainability of Mifos and the success of the partners themselves.
Yeah, so those that would have joined us last year, remember we said in 2025 we're going to redo our partner program. We started working on that. We got some feedback on it, and actually we've gone through an exercise of simplifying it down a bit. So we simplified the number of bands and had to do progression based on the feedback. So we've now got 6 clearly differentiated bands. I think we had 10 before, so a lot simpler to manage. We also started to articulate clearly the requirements and benefits to each of the bands from Explorer up to Gold. You can see some examples on the right-hand side. We will have a webinar on the 13th of April, and we will go through this in a lot more detail about how it works, and then we will roll it out through the year and translate all our existing partners into the program at the new levels, and we'll also look to outreach to new partners as well. We talked about volunteering a bit earlier, but what I want to come on to is community and collaboration. And one of the main ways we do that is through collaborating, for example, with some of the mentoring hosting organizations that we work with, Code for GovTech and Summer of Code. We are actively going to participate in both of those programs, and we're expecting to also run a Mifos Summer of Code as well again this summer. The program timescales are still being defined for C4GT, but for GSOC, they are out there now. We're going through the process of applying to be a GSOC mentoring organization. We will hear the outcome of that mid-February, but we should have, in the next few days, our populated ideas list up on the website for people. And it's great to see a lot of people already engaged in our Slack channels on GSOC saying, how can we contribute to Mifos products? How can we get involved? And that's really great. But a key call out, if you've got an idea, it is not too late. Please submit the idea on the first QR code somewhere down there. Or if you want to join as a mentor, we would love to have you a mentor. If you're a new mentor and you're not done it before, don't worry. We provide experienced mentors to work with you and get you on board so you can do it. Please click on the right-hand one and sign up to be a mentor in the next 24 to 48 hours. And we'll get you on our ideas list and our initial mentors submission. The other things we talked about last year was conferences and chapters, and we said we'd like to really reinvigorate the conferences and chapters, and we plan to do that through the year. And if you are interested in either starting up a chapter, understanding what a chapter is, just reach out to Ed, me, or Dima. And equally the same, we're looking at the viability of organising a Mifos virtual conference and maybe even face-to-face in the future. Again, if you're really interested in that and you think this is how we should go, this is how we should structure it, again, please talk to one of the 3 of us to help get that out there.
Thanks, David. And you're really developing your clout and prowess as an influencer, pointing at the QR codes on screen. I like that.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okay, yeah. And then I'm just going to have a brief look into what's coming up potentially for the rest of 2026 around the community and ecosystem. But as noted earlier, these plans are still being crystallized. So I think, as David noted, we want to be able to relaunch that chapter program. And as I noted earlier, explore other ways to enable more of that in-person collaboration to really enable that grassroots innovation on the ground. Apart from the initial revamps to the partner program, we want to continue to refine and modify that throughout the forthcoming year. And then we want to continue to work together collectively with our local system integrators and partners across the globe to jointly deliver on professional services to help both, bring sustainable revenue back into Mifos, but also help to achieve and respond to the growing demand and need there is for services around our DPG stacks. And then lastly, we recognize that enabling upstream contribution from our community members is a key, aspect of achieving our mission, but it does involve some handholding. We do have to refine our processes and make sure documentation is clear. So we want to continue to improve and round out and reduce the friction of making those critical contributions back upstream. But stay tuned next quarter as we have more visibility into what these actual activities are. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on talking about like what DPI is, as our last community call focused on that. But DPI isn't one of those like 3 programmatic areas that we report back specifically to the IRS around, but it is a subset that cuts across all of the different programmatic areas. And what we're really trying to achieve as our overall objective is to leverage our stack of digital public goods to enable the countrywide adoption of digital public infrastructure, primarily around how we can enable that last mile delivery of financial services into functional transactional accounts and wallets that help to actually advance financial health of those 3 billion underbanked. But I'll skip over these slides here, but these are various definitions around DPI, but it centers around open source systems, primarily open source ones that are able to help catalyze new innovation and help to achieve key aspects and goals of what citizens need to act and operate on a daily basis. So this might take the form of digital ID, digital payments, or data exchange. And our digital public goods focus around the payments as a key part of DPI. And what we continue to emphasize across the rest of the sector is that by providing both open source core banking as well as open source payment orchestration, we can help to achieve the last mile delivery of financial services to those most in need of them, both by providing those accounts as well as providing the connectivity into the emergent digital payment systems. And we help to achieve that objective in a number of ways, but we attend these events to advocate and connect with other countries, to collaborate with other DPGs around how our digital public goods can be interoperable for these use cases, how we can help to advance collective sustainability. And then we're looking at ways to both ease the evaluation of our digital public goods through Gazelle for various DPI use cases and to scale the deployment through efforts like shared infrastructure. But in terms of what we're looking to do in 2026, as noted earlier, we're going to be at MOSIP Connect and intend to have the opportunity to connect with a number of different countries there, but also continue the collaboration activities that have been ongoing, but really reached a key inflection point at the last DPGA member meeting. And then we're finalizing the commitments that Mifos as a community and initiative is making to the DPI safeguards. And we'll actually start to put those in practice through our software development and interactions with the ecosystem. On the collaboration front, there's a cross DPG group called the DPG Collaborative. We're going to be continuing to refine the activities there to explore how our collective efforts can bear fruit in helping to achieve sustainability. And we're also going to be refining and enhancing some of the specific use cases that we're looking to highlight and demonstrate within Gazelle. But we'll talk more about that as we look at the roadmap. And then once again, I think we've got efforts we need to do in helping to clarify the value proposition and clarify the role that the Mifos DPGs in helping to achieve the payments DPI portion of that foundational stack. So as we work together with other DPGs, as we help to build out these demonstrable use cases in Gazelle, as we help to advocate at these events like MOSIP Connect, we're going to continue focusing on that message around last mile financial inclusion via these accounts through both our core banking as well as payment orchestration tools. David, do you want to talk just a teeny bit about what we have in store and what we're envisioning for 2026 in terms of collaboration with other digital public goods?
Yeah, so there's a range of digital public goods out there. Some of these might actually be focus of GSOC intern projects, but we want to integrate with some other key DPGs such as OpenSPP, OpenG2P, for example. We've talked about we actually want to collaborate with other DPGs in that side of Gazelle, so we want to understand where Tazama could potentially fit in doing FRMS, fraud and risk management systems, and does that apply to Mifos X? Does it apply to Payment Hub EE? As we've said repeatedly, we're not doing this alone. We're collaborating with other DPGs. We see that's the best way to continue doing sustainability. The talks we have in Morocco will continue on throughout the year with the DPGs. We want to conduct some key country level pilots this year and really have some demonstrable use cases that can really bring it to life. We've got some exciting ones like that in the cusp of coming to fruition that we'll hopefully be able to talk about over the coming few months. And then, as you said, we really want to strengthen our link with funders and industry enablers as well, meaning that we can really explain how the stack works in all the different contexts, how we can do it and deepen the existing relationships we may have with organisations such as Co-Develop, DPGA, CDPI, etc.
Thanks, David.
I think next we're going to look at product, Ed. Yeah.
Yeah. So last but not least, we want to look at product and what we're looking to do in terms of helping to create that virtuous cycle, help to sustainably develop all the digital public goods and products that we maintain. So we're not going to get into extensive roadmap for each of these in today's session. As David noted, we're going to be scheduling standalone sessions for each of those. But we do want to touch upon at a high level what some of our objectives are for each product, and also talk about, some of the housekeeping and community governance and connective tissue enhancing that David is working on that's going to help us better achieve the progress and velocity towards the various product roadmaps we're looking to guide and maintain. But first off, just to recap, in terms of what we look to do, we hope to both be a steward as well as catalyst for the development around our digital public goods. So we want to provide that overarching vision. We want to help with the process of having a user-driven community roadmap, and then helping to both facilitate through funded development as well as enabling upstream contribution to achieve the needed velocity to build out the various milestones on the respective roadmaps across our products. And then we help to achieve this by adopting both this virtuous cycle of upstream contribution, where the community helps to collectively maintain and share its knowledge. And then we also adopt this hourglass approach to our architecture, where we want to have a very lightweight middle and core that we're able to maintain. And then we enable the community through upstream contribution to build out the underlying primitives and building blocks that support the core. And then through APIs and accessibility and alignment with the various standards out there, enable that innovation through apps and new user experiences as the top of that hourglass. But I'll pass it on to David, who's going to talk about some of what we have in store and what's already in action for the coming months to help us better achieve our product goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And our product goals really for Q1 is about putting things on the right footing. So making sure we have the right governance in place around the stack. And there's a lot of stuff we're starting to put in place, as people have seen, around making sure the right tools are there, consistent tools are used, etc. But a really big important thing, we've mentioned that roadmap term several times through this presentation so far, is we're going to have roadmap sessions for each of our products. This is a real chance for people to come along, bring all the features that they want, either from implementation has got, or just ideas that you've had when you wake up in the middle of the night. And we can actually gather all those in our Jira product discovery and start to formulate a proper consistent roadmap. And I know that will really help our developers. So we'll have a dedicated webinar in that schedule that we mentioned earlier, for Mifos Gazelle, Mifos X, and for Payment Hub EE on road mapping. And we'll also look at what we can do about our reference instances and our sandbox and make sure that they're right scaled for the products we've got and can support all the opportunities and the pilots we're talking about moving forwards. And the small term of housekeeping cleaned up on GitHub. We have to break some eggs to do things properly, I'm afraid, and there will be announcement about what eggs we're breaking to do things properly as we go through Q1. But yeah, with 180 repos and about 200 people with individual permissions at the moment, we will be moving towards team-based access, tightening things up a bit, making sure people have the right access. But as I say, we'll communicate that and we'll have a helpline available if we get it wrong. But apart from that, technical documentation, always important, and we really want to increase that. But Ed, I think you have a special announcement to make, don't you?
Yes, thanks, David. Yeah, so I'm really excited to announce that after, many years of being one of the key, volunteers and contributors across our community, we're finally going to have the opportunity to work, more closely on a full-time basis with Alex Vidakovic, of an actual member of the Mifos team. So he's soon going to be stepping into the highly valuable role as our chief community architect. And, I think everybody who's had the chance to interact with Alex throughout the years has seen how strong of an asset and how, trusted and genuine of a voice and supporter of all the individuals across the community he is. So we're really looking forward to that transformative impact that he can have on our community and our mission now as a closer part of the team. But really, we believe that he's going to help us to provide that unified vision and forward-looking architecture, as well as, roadmap that cuts across our entire tech stack, and really helping us to navigate and have a pragmatic approach to how we can leverage tools like AI to accelerate our development, and then also help us achieve some of the goals we'd had around modularity and enabling, this marketplace of innovation that gets built around the platform. Another key area where he's really going to unlock tremendous value will be in helping to bring forth more of that upstream contribution from partners in the ecosystem, and also continuing to be able to be that mentor and be that guide to many of the new contributors that come to us. Alex is also going to help us just improve that overall developer experience, whether that comes from stronger adherence to standards and processes or better maintenance of our community documentation, but being able to ensure that we have the tools and processes to help enable that upstream contribution. And then lastly, with Alex in this role, he's going to help us provide that stability and increase security around our core DPG stack. But we're looking forward to having this precious opportunity to work more closely with Alex. He's going to be formally coming into this role in the coming month or so. So stay tuned for Alex being a more active part of our team and being able to get himself involved in all aspects of the product development lifecycle across our entire stack. So welcome, Alex, and we're looking forward to having you as our chief community architect. So as David noted, we have road mapping sessions that we're going to be scheduling for each of our different products, but just want to touch on a couple of like the major areas that we're looking to continue to refine, enhance around Mifos X. So we'll continue to have a number of updates going back into functionality around the loan module coming from our Pepper Soup project. We want to be able to make progress and drive forward around the modularity as well as refactoring, which go hand in hand with each other. So continuing to wrap up the type safety work that was started last year, and then beginning to abstract out some new modules and introduce some of these event-driven architectural patterns across these new modules as well. We want to build upon the security enhancements that have gone into the platform and make sure those extend down into the customer-facing apps that we maintain. And then we have been in active communications with a number of different implementers around helping to close some of the key gaps we've seen at a functional level. So having better branch operations in the back end, being able to better support Sharia compliant Islamic finance operations, and then also addressing some of the gaps to help us manage savings groups and more savings-led financial inclusion. And then as part of our efforts around the front end, we want to streamline more of the configuration process such that that growing list of features doesn't overwhelm users by having product templates for the different products that can be configured, and then continuing our efforts around microfund and micro UIs. And then David, brought together this nice diagram that I think we've shared before, but this helps to share, our vision of how we want to have a more modular, Mifos X core banking platform powered by a Fineract backend, but continuing to build out, connections to additional backends, connections to additional decisioning engines, building out more of those modular front-end interfaces, and then enabling an ecosystem of trusted first-party mobile apps that we have, enabling the community to build out more of the apps they need to deliver the financial services and user experiences that their customers are requiring. David, on to you to talk about gazelles.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we've spent significant time updating Gazelle and solving broken dependencies and things like that, as well as testing the GovStack journeys that were part of PHE, but we never incorporated into Gazelle previously. So the new release, which is now in its final testing, you can have a look at it in dev. Is including the OpenCRVS deployment, all the demo runtime and creator modules, Raspberry Pi compatibility, GovStack workflows. That's quite a big piece of work. Lots of reliability fixes and deployment improvements for future integration. So it's a really big update. It's been worth waiting for, and that will be out very shortly. Previously, we were expecting to be on a 3-monthly release cycle, but we've decided as a product we're doing 6-monthly. So we'll be into a 6-monthly heartbeat, and really this version will be what we use as the baseline going into all the GSOC projects moving forwards. But as we said, we've got a road mapping session for each of our products. This is the Gazelle road mapping session on the 3rd of March, and it'd be great to have people join and talk about what next should we do with Gazelle, where should we move it to, and what bit should we use. Payment Hub EE as well. In our goals for that, we really want to do a 2.0 release, and it will be a 2.0 release. It's quite substantial. That incorporates all the upstream contributions. We started putting them into branches ready to be able to take in within Payment Hub. We also want to start looking at some real core updates as well around refactoring modularity and maybe how we can abstract the workflow engine even better, so that it allows options for different workflow engines to be used depending on the application you want. We also want to look at performance and resource consumption. It's always been quite large. I mean, by using modularity and where the resources are used, we think there's significant gains there. And one of the things that we said with safeguards and best practices as well, it's probably time to do a security audit on Payment Hub EE as well. But we have a road mapping session, which actually I don't think we put the QR code up there, but we do have a road mapping session planned as well for Payment Hub EE, which is on the 31st of March.
Thanks, David. And I don't think we had a specific slide on AI, but I'm gonna quickly touch on a little bit of our plans there. I know we're formulating that as part of Summer of Code, but hopefully tomorrow's session will help us, determine more of what the goals are around AI, both in terms of new tools and how we can use it for accelerating our developments.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what will come out tomorrow is probably some principles, and we'll probably, even put them in a white paper or blog post or whatever's appropriate at this stage to say these are principles that the community thinks we should be adopting around AI. Maybe even start looking at some of AI safeguards that we want to put in place, but also saying this is the good things AI can do. So many times you hear negatives about AI, or positive about AI. What we really want tomorrow is to look at that balance and say, where does it really fit with Mifos, and how can it fit into all the product strategies as well?
Thanks. Yeah, so this is a slide we used before, but just want to refocus once again. We've clarified our mobile app development strategy. So as part of the Mifos X suite, we have our field officer application to enable those field operations of staff of an institution. And then we also have 2 customer-facing mobile applications, Mifos Pay, which is our wallet application, and then Mifos Mobile, which is essentially our mobile banking self-service application for those individuals that have an account managed by a Mifos X installation. And so Rajan and the team, as we noted before, has been making tremendous progress across these milestones this past year and have a more comprehensive vision of how to build upon this foundation for the coming months ahead. So if you want to, have a closer look at what's built out on the mobile side, I'd point you to the Finance Week showcase, as that does a great job of looking at the various enhancements, both at an architectural as well as functional level that went into the mobile apps, as well as the comprehensive UI library that Saksham worked on, which will guide the UI and design across our cross-platform applications. But it's really been powerful to see what the KMP framework has been able to do around not just only the development process, but now being able to have our community maintain different versions of our applications for the various mobile platforms. And so you can, access these links here when we send around the slide deck, but these are the links to the different releases that are now available in both the Google Play as well as Apple app stores. And then these are some of the key aspects that we're looking to drive forward as part of our mobile development in 2026, that our interns, as well as the strong community of mobile developers we have involved. So we want to help to enable better offline mode across our field officer operations app. We want to streamline more of that process for distributing and publishing the various applications across the distribution points, as well as how those actually get consumed by the financial institutions using them. We're working closely with a customer in Latin America to help digitize savings groups. So we look forward to launching a community version of a app to help a savings group manage their operations and have visibility into their activities. And then lastly, we're working on being able to roll out one-click deployments of our applications. But if you're looking to get involved with our mobile development, definitely jump in one of the Slack channels there, as it's very active, and Rajan will ensure you can share your ideas and get going on specific tasks. And so the last area that we just want to update is just a small programmatic area, but it's key to the operation as well as the ongoing growth and development of our community and the health and viability of our initiative overall. So Mifos, we focus on being able to drive towards sustainability through a healthy mix of both philanthropic, donor and grant money from funders, as well as trying to develop sustainable, mission-driven streams of revenue. And so throughout the upcoming year, we have a number of key areas and goals that we're looking to achieve upon. So first off, we do have a number of open seats on our current board of directors. So we're looking for dedicated, committed, and talented individuals who want to get more involved with helping us achieve our mission. We definitely need folks that are more involved in the financial inclusion space and also coming from the DPI space. And apart from those roles we have on our board of directors, we also want to continue to grow that base of strategic advisors who can be a bit more hands-on and bring to bear some of the expertise they have around domain and specific subject matter. We also, have a number of grants that are in execution phase or beginning to kick off. So we want to ensure that we're able to both wrap up some of those grants and also kick off the new grants that we have in the pipeline. We recognize that we do have a lot that our community ecosystem has achieved and a strong stack of digital public goods that we maintain. So we want to ensure that we have a regular stream of new applications and new relationships we're trying to build within the donor space to help bring in funding to achieve those objectives. And then as noted, in terms of the updates to our partner program, hopefully what we'll showcase in the upcoming webinar will help to demonstrate how we're trying to align the success and growth of our partners and ecosystem with revenue and sustainability of the Mifos initiative. As noted earlier as well, we recognize that demand continues to grow across all of our products, whether that be the back end, whether it be Payment Hub, or whether it be the need to develop new mobile apps. So we want to ensure that we can work hand in hand with the integrators across our ecosystem to provide better professional services to respond to this gap in services. And then lastly, we have a number of areas and new, sort of revenue streams or new approaches to sustainability that we're going to explore in the coming months. But I want to pass it on to David for one quick update around the funding opportunity that will be visible in the communities.
Yeah, one of the things we'll be doing is taking part in the Frost.fund approach, which is where we put a JSON file in our repos that outlines some of the opportunities people can do. And that gives us opportunities and access to grants that vary between 10,000 and 100,000. Why haven't we done it so far? Because it's dependent on that tidy up of GitHub. So that's why we'll be doing that in Q1, putting in some top level repos for each of our projects, and therefore we're able to put those in and have them ready hopefully by the end of Q1. So yeah, that'll be an exciting new way to maybe get some funding in as well through that. We've chatted to other DPGs and organisations, and we know the grants are actually flowing through that mechanism. So it is a useful mechanism to do. I think that pretty much wraps it up from you and me, Ed. But I did hear in the background someone else wanted to say thank you.
Oh, yeah. No, Mochi would like to say thank you to everybody for attending. We've got the QR code there on the screen to register for the next community call. which is scheduled for April 28th. And then I also want to just, give a big thank you to David for all he's worked on, in the years that he's now been with the Mifos initiative, because I think everybody who's been a part of the community can see the noticeable, uptick in acceleration of stuff that's actually getting done, the, partnerships we're building, the increased velocity across the product. So a big thank you to David on that regard. And then also, it's going to be nice to have Dima with us this year, as it's been a couple years since we had a business development intern. And Dima and our interns really act as that first point of contact, helping to connect with everybody, getting meetings and calls scheduled, and helping us connect with all the various members of the community that are coming our way. And then really excited to have Alex as a formal part of our team, as now we have somebody that's actually technical that will be a part of our team and help us to achieve on all the objectives and goals we want to make progress on throughout the coming year. But I think we've got about 5 minutes remaining to go through questions. So I told you, David, we'd get through the slides. So if anybody has any questions, you could put them in the questions there, or you could raise your hand and we can try to take you off mute. But once again, want to thank everybody for coming together. We'll circulate both the recording of this call as well as the slides. And then we'll also make sure, through the links to the site or a specific, message that how and when you can join the future calls. And also, David, what's the time for the AI call tomorrow? I want to make sure people can register for that, if so.
Yeah, you don't need to register. You can just click on the link.
Okay.
And the time for it, I believe, is 11 o'clock off the top of my head. Yes, 11 o'clock UTC tomorrow is the AI call. I'll put it in the general Slack channel so people can see again.
Okay, yeah, let me check, see if there's any, I think some questions are coming. Yeah, I think, well, in terms of, so James had a question around how many people are here for this community meeting and where they're coming from. I think by continent at least. So in terms of number of people, I think our peak attendance was around 45 or so. I think we had around 70 plus people registered, but then the cross section of where they're coming from, looking briefly, I think it's fairly well. Yeah.
Apart from Antarctica, I think most continents are pretty covered from what I can see. So
yeah. Yeah, if there are any other questions, feel free to post them in the question and answer tool or raise your hands. Yeah, just while we're, waiting for any other questions that come through, want to reiterate that if you are, interested in possibly acting as a mentor, you just want to learn more about what a mentor commitment for our summer intern programs looks like, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And then likewise, if you have a project idea, we want to have a healthy mix of ideas across all of our product stack. And then one of the key, thematic areas that for Google Summer of Code, at least this year, is around AI and security. So we also want to make sure we have some solid project ideas on that front. So.
So I think the only other thing I'd add is, you've had a lot of Ed and me and a bit of Dima talking today, but we're just really presenting the work that the community's done, so I think it demonstrates what everybody's done and the huge amounts that we've done, that we managed to cover 110 slides in 90 minutes. So well done, everybody.
Yeah, and while Victor was a key part of a number of the slides at the Interledger Foundation, I do want to give a special shout out to Victor, because he really has been deeply involved across all areas of the community. He was mentoring a number of Summer of Code projects. He and his team have been making a lot of upstream contributions. They also helped to, maintain some of our infrastructure, and they've also been, helping to promote and bring on potential, new users across the public and private sector. And so thank you, Victor, for, all the work you do and that genuine commitment you've got to the community. I see we've got a question from Vivek around, joining the Slack space, but I think David's going to take care of that one through the chat. So.
Yeah, I've sent the link. Hopefully you can all see it, I think, when I do that. But yes, you can, if you get any problems with that, just reach out to one of us and we'll sort it. But yeah, I'll reach out to you and find out where the broken link is and get that replaced on the website.
Yeah, another question from James just around communicating some of this through multimedia or videos. So I think, yeah, David has done a lot of, yeah, he's invested. Are you using Final Cut Pro or what are you using, David? So,
Yeah, Final Cut Pro, and we've got I've got an Envato subscription to try and make things a bit more fancy.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
yeah.
David, yeah, so David's been churning out many more videos. I think I need to get more involved in that front. But we do recognize, yeah, that video is a powerful way to tell some of these stories. So I think apart from what David's already been doing, we're trying to push out more of these updates and progress around these areas through videos. So. Okay, I think we're at the end of our session that we have. So if there are any other questions, you can find us on Slack. And once again, Dima, David, and myself would like to thank you for joining us today. And hopefully we'll see some of you on that AI for All and Architectural Working Group combined call tomorrow. So
Thank you.
thank everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.